Have you ever wondered why an argument over an unwashed mug or a late text message can suddenly turn into a conversation about divorce? Psychologists say that conflict in a couple is not a sign that you are incompatible, but rather an important tool for the growth of a relationship. Today, we will put emotions aside and look at arguments through the lens of science. We will explore how our neurons work in moments of anger, why we subconsciously choose destructive patterns of behavior, and how to learn to argue in a way that does not destroy your bond but strengthens it. Love is not the absence of conflict. It is the ability to move through it while preserving respect and closeness. Every argument in a relationship has two parallel levels that are important to distinguish. The first is a surface level, everyday issues, finances, or parenting. The second is the deeper level where our basic needs for safety, recognition, and autonomy are hidden. When we shout about small things, our psyche is actually trying to communicate something much more important. Researcher John Gottman, who studied the behavior of thousands of couples over decades, found that there are certain behavior patterns that predict breakups with almost absolute accuracy. He called them the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, and the first of them is criticism. This is not just a complaint about an action, but an attack on your partner's personality, when instead of discussing the problem, we start blaming the person for who they are. The next dangerous player in conflict is contempt. This is a state in which one partner demonstrates moral or intellectual superiority. It includes sarcasm, condescending jokes, and even eye-rolling. Contempt is considered the most destructive factor because it completely kills the sense of safety and trust. The third horseman is defensiveness. When instead of hearing the other person's pain, we start opravdovitsa or shifting the blame onto our partner. And finally, the fourth horseman is stonewalling. This is when one partner simply shuts down, ignores questions, or walks into another room, leaving the other in an emotional vacuum. Biologically, during an intense conflict, our body experiences what psychologists call emotional flooding. When the heart rate speeds up and adrenaline goes through the roof, the rational part of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, practically shuts down. In this moment, we lose the ability to think logically or empathize and switch into survival mode, fight or flight. That is why, in the heat of an argument, we often say things we later bitterly regret. It is important to understand that negotiation is impossible in a state of flooding, and the only right decision at that moment is to take a break for at least 20 minutes so that the body can return to a normal physiological state. Very often, we are not arguing with our real partner, but with our childhood traumas and projections. Our conflict style is usually formed early in life under the influence of our parents. People with an anxious attachment style often become pursuers in moments of crisis. They are afraid of being abandoned, so they demand an immediate conversation, put pressure on their partner, and give them no space. People with an avoidant attachment style, on the contrary, perceive emotional pressure as a threat to their independence and shut down. This creates a vicious circle where one partner chases and the other runs even faster. Awareness of this dynamic allows partners to pause and realize that behind aggression or coldness, there is actually fear. To make conflict constructive, it is necessary to introduce a culture of I messages. This is the ability to talk about your feelings without blaming the other person. When we say that we are hurt or lonely, we do not trigger defensiveness, but open the door to empathy. It is also important to remember the rule of the emotional bank account. In happy couples, the number of positive moments, hugs, compliments, words of support greatly exceeds the amount of negativity. This creates a reserve of strength that helps the couple weather storms without serious losses. If your emotional account is empty, even the smallest spark can start a major fire. Conflict is also a way to define your boundaries. It is the moment when we show our partner where the limits of our tolerance lie and what is truly valuable to us. Without arguments, relationships often become superficial because partners are afraid to touch difficult topics and accumulate hidden resentment. True intimacy is impossible without honesty, and honesty can sometimes be painful. The main thing is to remember that the goal of conflict is not to win or prove that you are right, but to better understand the person you love and find a shared solution that works for both of you. The difference between happy and unhappy couples is not the absence of problems, but the willingness to solve them and the ability to apologize. A successful repair attempt after an argument is the real secret of a long-lasting relationship. It can be a joke, a warm look, or a simple acknowledgement of your mistakes. When we realize that our partner is not an enemy, but an ally with whom we overcome difficulties together, conflict stops being a threat. It becomes a point of growth that makes your connection deeper and your love more mature and resilient to any life challenges. If you want to be more mindful in your relationship and learn interesting things to improve it, subscribe to the channel, and I'm looking forward to your feedback in the form of hearts and comments.